Book review. Clap, clap. Hold on. Book review. There we go. I could like clip this mic onto my shirt, but I kind of like holding something. There's this YouTuber, Zane Parker, I really like, and he always has this like long mic, and he's holding it. I like the look of that. But okay, I literally just finished reading Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, and that was really good. I'll probably talk about spoilers. I'll say spoiler alert. Um, I had a few friends that have read this, so that's why I read it. But I guess it's connected to like his other books of like Mistborn and Stormlight Archives, but it could be read as a standalone. So that's why I read it because I want a standalone. I guess if you just read the other ones, it enriches the story. But I've only read one other Sanderson book, and that was Tress of the Emerald Sea, and I really enjoyed that one. It's very fun read, very fairy tale esque, like Princess Bride. And I really liked that. But as I was reading that, I was like, this is just a good book, you know. Uh, like I don't understand the hype of Sanderson from just this book. Still a really good book. I really enjoyed it, but like, reading it, I wasn't like captivated. Like, oh my god, Sanderson is a maestro with the pen. Reading Warbreaker, I get the hype now. I understand it. Um, yeah, it was really good. I thought all the characters were really written well. Like there'd be times where like I'd get like tricked, I guess I'll say. Like I'll like feel like, oh, this is pretty like easygoing read, pretty relaxing. There's some stakes, but it doesn't seem too crucial. Oh, dead. It's like, oh my god, this is like people are gonna die in this. Oh my god, I need to lock back in. And oh, kind of lulls back down. You're like, okay, I wonder how things gonna end for this kid. Oh, he's dead now, or she's dead now. It's like, God, I keep forgetting that this is gonna happen, and I like that because you get learned to false insecurity. You're keeps you on your toes, keeps you guessing. There'll be so many times where like, okay, I think this is gonna happen, and then it goes a completely different turn. There was one thing I guess I got right, um, but everything else I was just kind of wrong. So yeah, I don't know how. I wanted to talk about this. I haven't really planned anything out. Um, there's some things I'm kind of confused about story wise, which I'll have to like maybe look up some stuff or just ask my friends who've read it. But okay, so I guess I'll just give a synopsis. Uh, this one kingdom is basically kind of almost in like a Cold War situation with this other kingdom that how should I phrase this? Maybe not Cold War, but like very fragile alliance. And there was a rebellion like many years ago, and that like the the bloodline that was in that rebellion like split off in this kingdom called Edrin, and then the kingdom that they fled from, Hallandrin, is like the big superpower, and Edrin's very small, and like they're kind of doing their own thing. But Hallandrin's like they have like a claim to the throne, so like they could always come back and start war on us. But then the other things like, I mean, if they do start war on us, we're probably gonna win. Like, does it really matter? But like that's kind of like the system, like what's going on between them. But they made a treaty like 20 years back in which the to secure like a friendly alliance type thing, the Adrian King would send off his daughter to marry the God King of Hallandrin. And that's where the book starts. Like, hey, 20 years up, you gotta send your daughter, bro. And he's like, I don't want to send my oldest daughter, like, she's really I really love her, you know? I don't wanna send her to that those bitches over in Hallandren. They're gonna do awful things to her, and she's gonna make such a good queen for us. My other daughter, Siri, though, eh, she's always getting up to trouble. Doesn't really do much of worth around here. The treaty never specifically said which daughter I had to send, so he sends Siri, his youngest daughter. And his oldest daughter, Vivenna, was, you know, taught her whole life up to this point about, hey, you're going to be shipped off to marry this God King guy who we're very afraid of and think is very unnatural. Um, but you're going to go over there, you're going to give him a kid, you know, probably be like a slave, some type shit. You gotta do your duty though. You gotta protect the kingdom. And she was kind of chill with that. She was like, I'm gonna protect my people. But then, her dad gets cold feet, and she stays behind. And Siri goes completely untrained, unaware. She hasn't been like really taught anything because nobody expected her to do anything. She had very low responsibility within her own kingdom. Nobody had expectation for her. She'd just do her own thing. Now she's got to go do this thing, and like that's the start of the story. There's like five different, not five, maybe like four different main characters perspectives you follow. There's Siri, Vivenna, Vasher, and Lightsong. You know who Siri and Vivenna are. Vasher is this kind of dude you meet early on who's very kind of mysterious, but he's a dangerous guy. That's how you know from him. He's up to some stuff. He's taking names, kicking ass. And then there's Lightsong, who is in the court of gods in Hallandren. So Hallandren is made up of the God King, who's at the very top. And then there's like, I don't know how many, but we'll say 12. I don't know, so like 12 gods. And the gods are these people called returned. And the returned are the people who have died but have been brought back to life. Um, they don't really have any powers or anything. There's they come back with newer, like greater god bodies, and they don't remember their old lives. Well, Light Song is one of these gods, the returned. And I don't really want to talk about the power system. The power system is kind of confusing to me. It's not confusing, but I don't think I can uh clarify it. I'm not good at clarifying these things. But that's like the general gist of like the characters. Not very I'm not I just do this shit to talk. I'm not trying to like explain shit. Okay. But now that like the synopsis shit is done, I'm gonna just talk about spoilers, I guess, and shit I liked. Okay, so I'm gonna start with Vivenna. Vivenna has the most like I guess arc uh in character development. Very early on, I didn't really give a shit about Vivenna. I found her very annoying. I didn't really start caring about her until the Denth betrayal, which really surprised me. And I was like, okay, so now this Vivenna's story is picking up. It has some bigger stakes now because I was very early on thinking, okay, Vivenna and Denth are gonna make trouble for Ciri because they don't know that Ciri's like actually kind of like doing pretty good in the kingdom right now. She's kind of doing good, and they're gonna fuck up her whole thing. It was gonna be like, okay, we're gonna have to root against Vivenna because her and Ciri come on opposite sides, but they just don't know it. But then, very shockingly, Denth betrays them, or betrays Vivenna, kills her friend Parlin. Rip out, rip my boy Parlin. I knew he was gonna die. I was still sad. Like he was just there. He was like, why is this guy even here? He's like, oh, he's here so you can kill him. That was the part in like the book where I was like, oh right, like This isn't just some cozy read. But then once Vivenna starts living on the streets and starts realizing, oh man, I kind of suck. I was like, yeah, you did kind of suck. So this is good for your development. Like you're seeing the stuff that like you like shunned and stuff, and you're having to, you know, be that kind of person just to survive. So then as the book got deeper, I definitely enjoyed her character a lot more. So she was still kind of my least like to follow, but I didn't dislike following her as the story went on. Then we have Vasher. Vasher was pretty cool. He was always kind of like on the outside because you have Vasher, not Vasher, Ciri, Vivenna, and Lightsong all kind of center around Hallandren, and Vasher is kind of like still around that bubble, kind of in the early part, but he's planning something. You don't really know what he's planning. You're not sure if he's a good guy or a bad guy. Then, as he breaks into the Hallandren bubble and like he meets up with Vivenna, kind of, and you really see like understand his motives. I thought Vasher was a really cool character. The way he uses the breath was really interesting and cool and badass. His breath, like you never really understood what breath was and what it was capable of until like you got to see Vasher use it in battle, and like he kind of like taught Vivenna, made you really appreciate the use of breath and the combat of breath. The I guess I'll talk about Sanderson's writing kind of after I finish my thoughts on the story. But then I'd say Lightsong was my second favorite to follow. Lightsong was really just a fun written character. Um, a god who doesn't believe in his own godhood is a very interesting premise. Very quick witted. He's very charming. Him and his scenes with Blush Weaver were very interesting. It was very interesting to see them interact. And then just following Lightsong as he tries to uncover like what's going on, trying to uncover like what is going on with himself because he wants to, he doesn't think he's a god, and he's like, why am I even here? Like, why do these people like come to me and like revere me and shit? But then my favorite follow was Ciri because I'm just, I'm a hopeless romantic. So I seeing her and her development with Susbron was my favorite part. So like, early on when Syria like is still very much alone in Hallandren, and she's you know kind of like slowly figuring out like, oh, this is not, there's something going on around here, but I just gotta do my duty. And she just goes to Susbron's room every night, strips down, just kind of waits for him to like take action, because like right as she gets to the Hallandren, she's like, the priests are like, okay, go give the king an heir. So she's like, okay, well, I know that I have to like give him air. I'm instructed to just wait in his room naked and wait for him to take me. So she does that for days. She just kneels down in front of him, waiting for him to make moves. He never does anything, never speaks. So then going from that to where like they finally start communicating, she realizes he doesn't have a tongue and he can't like, he's basically just a puppet for the priest. I was like, oh my god, like this, like what is the point of the story? It's like, where is this going? And it's just always turns. You can never follow it, like not in a bad way. It's always like it's a mystery at the end of the day, really. And through these different perspectives, you're like, you don't really know who the bad guy is, or if there even is a bad guy, or it's just all these people with different viewpoints, and you're hearing these different viewpoints, and it's like, I mean, I understand that guy, I understand that guy. Like, I understand why people would be for a war with Idris. Is it Idris or Idris? It's Idris. Adrian is the people. With Idris, and I understand why people don't want the war with Idris. Sanderson is just, dude, like, I don't want to glaze him because everybody glazes him, but after reading this, like, it's hard not to. Um, I guess I'll just talk about some plot or theories I had. I thought that I forget what they called him, but the lifeless that was with Denth and Jules and Tong Fa. I thought he was gonna play a little larger role because he was like, when Vivenna would like look at him, she'd be disgusted, and then like he saved her, and she was like, "Ah, I feel like there's almost like a person behind those eyes." I thought he was gonna play a little larger part. Honestly, like Jules like disappeared. I don't know what happened. Her and Tong Fa really just didn't matter really. Jules more than Tong Fa, but once they betrayed the Vivenna, you never saw Jules again. Tong Fa was second fiddle to Denth. Even then, like Denth rarely was a key character up until the end. He was just kind of to fight Vasher. So then, my one theory was my other theory was that Vasher would kill Susprawn because Vivenna and him would like rise up thinking he was evil to try to kill him and rescue Ciri, and then they kill him, and then Ciri would be like, "No, what have you done?" So that was one theory, kind of early on. As it kept going on, I developed a new theory. Well, first of all, Lightsong, that motherfucker was gonna die. I was positive that motherfucker was gonna die. I love Lightsong, but like very early on, like one of his points was, "Why would I give my life up for just some random person I don't know? Why do they expect us to do that? Why would I ever do that?" And what is it? Chekhov's gun? Is that what it's called? Where like if you introduce a gun to the story, it has to go off. There's a lot of stuff in this book that feels like Chekhov's guns, where like Sanderson like will say something or show something, and it's like, okay, cool, and then like 40 chapters later, it's like, oh, that meant this thing. That means that this is connected to that, so that this person was actually right. It's like all these little things are like don't seem important very early on, and then like a twist will happen, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, that was kind of hinted at. Um, like its little trail of breadcrumbs is very nice. So I did theorize. One of my other theories was that Lightsong would give his breath up to save the God King, and that did happen. Not in the same context that I kind of thought it was, but it still happened. So point for me, I guess. One thing I'm kind of I don't know. So like as I was reading this today, I was looking at like how much I had left. I was like, oh, I'm like 5 chapters from the end. Like where we were in the story, I was like, how is this going to get wrapped up in 5 chapters? I don't think. I think I thought it was paced very well. And then you get to the last like 80% of the book, then it kind of speeds up. I don't feel like it was rushed. It was just kind of unexpected that we kind of went through it in just 5 chapters. It was still really good. Like it really kind of threw me off. I thought you could have. I don't know. It was like a lot of setup and build up, and then it was like, bam, we're finish line. And then with the ending, I probably missed some stuff, but like I don't know. So Vasher was a returned. He was like the original God King, I think. Um, which I can't remember if there was any build up for that though. Like I was curious that like, you know, when Denth and them were talking about stuff and they were like referring to them as like their old names, I was like I just kind of thought that was like, okay, yeah, they're like mercenaries and shit. Like it would make sense for them to like change their names every once in a while. Um but me that was just, like a red herring type thing or a misdirect. So then Denth was also Was he a return or was he just? I think yeah, that was also a returned. I think. Um, I don't know, I was just kind of confused by that stuff. I was like, I must have missed something. I must have missed something. Because then, like, one chapter, as there is, like, in the last few chapters, they were talking about, I was like, oh, this dude's really old. Okay, he has to be returned. How does this, like, fit into the timeline of stuff? So, like, I just finished reading this, like, 10 minutes before I started recording this. So, like, I'm just going off the go. Like, I haven't looked into anything to clarify my thing. So, like, I might be saying stuff that's, like, super stupid. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? How did you not see that this meant that? It's like, sorry. I just fresh off the brain, I wanted to go. But I really enjoyed this book. I was kind of another thing I was kind of, I guess, maybe confused about. So Bluefingers was ultimately the bad guy, and he was manipulating Siri into distrusting the priest, and the priest didn't help it because, like, while the priests were loyal to the God King, they're also just dicks, I guess, and had a very misguided view of loyalty, maybe, and that didn't help them kind of like have it easy for Siri to distrust them. Um, so I don't know. It's kind of surprised me at the end. I was like, oh, the priests are actually good, which it could be another thing where it's like, oh, was it like very obvious that Bluefingers was like the bad dude from all along? Like looking back on it, I was like, okay, so this definitely makes sense. You know, Bluefingers was very in Siri's ear at the beginning and trying to get her to distrust the priest, which would make it easier for him to try to like seize or you know finish through with his plan. But then I was just like, oh, so priests are good guys, but they're also just kind of dicks. So I don't know. I don't know. I gotta think on it. But the big thing, the recency bias, I guess, because I just read it. But like the epilogue chapter, the chapter before the epilogue ends with Vasher saying, "Hey, I'm gonna give to talking to Zeus Brown. I'm giving you command of these uh, troops so you can stop this march on Idris and prevent this other war or this next war from happening." Um, and then cuts to the epilogue, and then the epilogue is just um, Vasher and Vivenna kind of talk a little bit about Vasher's history, and then Vasher and Vivenna go off to this next adventure they're gonna have. And then it ends, and it doesn't. My big thing is that it doesn't say anything about what's going on with Susbron and Ciri and stuff. So I was really hoping, like, like epilogue was like 10 more chapters. And you just did the same thing that you did with Vasher and Vivenna, but gave to Susbron and Ciri. Would have really liked that. Because Ciri was probably my favorite character. Storyline between Ciri and Susbron were definitely my favorite. So I'm upset that we didn't get a very clear resolution to their story. Like they're, I like it's not like it left on like some big cliffhanger or anything. Like you kind of understand where it's gonna go. Like I assume Susbron now with like able to talk and able to use his breath and stuff, he'll take more of a control of his kingdom and really actually rule as a king. With Ciri as his queen, and they'll just go on trying to re I guess we'll say rebuild Hallandren and its political system. But I wish we got kind of like a show of that instead of just assuming. I'm happy that things worked out between Zeusbron and Ciri because I love a good happy romance. So then yeah, that's Warbreaker. I don't know if I really want to get into Mistborn right away. I'm kind of scarred from reading like series. Um, I get very stressed out a lot, so it's hard for me to. I have to be very careful with what I read. I have very bad anxiety sometimes when it comes to reading these long stories. So I have to just check with my friends, make sure like I'll be okay with it. Like 'cause Warbreaker, I was pretty chill with. If I can get through this, can I get through all this other stuff? But I get the hype now of Sanderson. I get the hype. A really fucking talented writer. So yeah, I'm either probably gonna start Mistborn. I might get, I don't know, I might catch up on some manga. Um, Maybe I'll read another Terry Pratchett novel. Really like Terry Pratchett. Um, there's Yeah, I know. I got options. I got options. But yeah, that was Warbreaker. It's my what? I don't know. I can't. I do it out of 10. I do. I said I rank things out of 10. I'll get Warbreaker a 9. 9. I'll give it a 9 because there are a few things. Maybe it'll change after I like look into stuff and get some clarification. But and like this is mainly just personal biases that I'm thinking of. Like the epilogue kind of soured me. It just feels like, oh, I really wish we got something with Seuss Braun and Siri. And but yeah, 9. Fantastic, fantastic book. And that's it, I think. Yeah.